President Tinubu begins private visit to France.
ECOWAS member countries advised to ratify and fully implement protocol against corruption.
NERC issues 9 off-grid generation licenses.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on tackling oil theft.
Well, 9 years ago, when Nigeria struck her first oil, it would have been difficult to imagine that this resource would bring so much anxiety like we witness right now.
Did you say 9, or you meant 6 to 8 years ago? Or how long?
Well, all is part of now.
Well, like the proverbial buttress, Nigeria's oil has also become one of her biggest challenges. The resource has brought with it many issues, one of which is oil theft.
Well, oil theft has plagued Nigeria's crude oil industry for decades, unseating the country from her previous position on the oil-producing countries index to the current 11th position. Reports indicate that Nigeria loses close to 400,000 barrels of crude oil daily to local and international thieves.
Another report says between last year and now, Nigeria lost more than 5 trillion naira to oil theft. I'm sure you'd recall the televised 2.5-mile-long pipeline built by oil thieves in Delta State.
Now the situation has become so serious that the armed forces stepped in to help. For instance, not too long ago, the Nigerian army destroyed 27 illegal oil refineries and confiscated stolen crude oil in several raids in the Niger Delta. The Army's Joint Task Force South-South Operation Delta Safe has also made several seizures and arrests.
The Army also helped in setting up a monitoring team to help the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Company Limited, crack down on oil theft. Other security agencies, including the Nigerian Navy and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, are also in the game.
And so how much more can Nigeria do to further address the challenge of oil theft? What roles should oil-producing communities play to end the staggering level of oil theft in the country? We have guests joining us shortly to speak on these issues. We will also be hoping that the guests will come on board with recommendations on how to make the situation better, if you might say. Right. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Victor Azu.
Rest assured, Victor, all the answers will be provided by a very well-researched guest. All right. I'm Henry John. You're live on the network service of the NTA. The program is Good Morning Nigeria. Just like my colleague told you, of course, it promises to be a bumper package. We have the newspaper review, which will come up shortly. But for now, let's hear the latest in the news. And Frama Payne has got that. Frama, good morning to you.
Good morning, Henry. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Nigerians. Here is the morning news. President Bola Tinubu departed Abuja for Paris on Monday aboard the newly acquired Airbus A330, which has replaced the 19-year-old Boeing B737-700 BBJ purchased during the presidency of Olusegun Obasanjo. According to a statement by Presidential Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the new aircraft was procured at a significantly lower market price, resulting in substantial savings for Nigeria on maintenance and fuel costs, amounting to millions of dollars annually. Onanuga further explained that the decision to replace the B737-700 BBJ followed a parliamentary investigative hearing that raised concerns about the plane's safety record and cost efficiency, particularly after it experienced technical issues during a trip to Saudi Arabia. The Nigerian Senate Security and Intelligence Committee subsequently recommended upgrading the presidential fleet to reduce downtime and operational expenses. And ECOWAS member countries are advised to ratify and implement the ECOWAS protocol against corruption, as conveyed by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the West African Assembly. President Bola Tinubu's message, conveyed by Vice President Shettima, was communicated at the opening of the 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA, held at the ECOWAS Secretariat in Abuja.
ECOWAS establishment of NACIWA in 2010 was a visionary step towards creating a united front against the scourge of corruption in our region. It provides a platform for law enforcement collaboration in tackling the common challenge of corruption, which poses serious economic, security, and developmental challenges to the entire West African sub-region.
And the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has issued license for mini-grid electricity generation to some companies in the country. In its 2024 first quarter report, NERC says a total of 9 new off-grid generation licenses were issued with a gross capacity of 109.69 megawatts and 3 new trading licenses. The off-grid gas plants are to be built in Lagos, Oyo, Ogun and Cross River states with a total capacity of 100 megawatts. NERC says captive power generation permits are issued to entities that aim to own and maintain power plants for generating power for consumption and not for sale to a third party. Also in the first quarter report, NERC revealed that it certified 6-meter service providers, including 4-meter installers and 2-meter manufacturers. And talking judiciary now, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeals emanating from the conduct of the Bayelsa and Kogi States governorship elections, marking a significant development in the electoral dispute resolution process. The nation eagerly awaits the Apex Court's final verdict on the matter. And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Yenri and Victor after this break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We swear in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
Relief is coming. More wages, reduced costs. Nigeria's national minimum wage is now 70,000 naira and it will be reviewed every 3 years. The federal government will commence immediate implementation and state governments are being encouraged to follow suit. With the presidential CNG initiative, transport costs are coming down. Are you a car owner or a transporter? Visit www.pci.gov.ng to find out how you can benefit from switching to CNG. This is the renewed hope.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with the transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin.
It created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
All right, thanks for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next is newspaper review.
Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja is right here with us. Chukwudi, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning. How are you today?
Could be better.
Victor, good morning.
Good morning. Just running through the paper before me, and it's the blueprint, which leads with the major story. Nigerian government to ECOWAS, $88.6 billion annual illicit financial flow accounts for poor Africa's infrastructure. Let me take that again. Nigeria government to ECOWAS, $88.6 billion annual illicit financial flow accounts for poor Africa's infrastructure. And it has two riders. Tinubu wants ECOWAS protocol ratified, implemented. Abuja becomes Nasiwa's permanent headquarters. All right. And just below that story, relief as crude oil sales to Dangote, others in Naira begins October 1. NNPCL posts 3.3 trillion Naira net profit, declares 2.1 trillion Naira dividend 2023. Interesting. And just below the nameplate of the blueprint, Tinubu sacks Arabi, appoints Professor Usman new NACON chair. That story is on page 6. And business, Naira struggles as dollar index hits lowest since January. That story is on page 23. And in sports, Rangers coach Ilechukwu Boso tipped to assist new Super Eagles gaffer. And that story is on page 32, even though we don't know the new gaffer yet. Yeah, Ray.
All right, let's see what the New Telegraph has this morning. It leads with 5 years after appeal court to hear ex-CGN and organ suit challenging his removal from office today. That's on page 4. Beside the picture story, we have stigmatization reason persons with TB avoid treatment. That's according to experts. Oyo APC chair Omodewu dies in USA. Late soldiers tension as troops swoop on Okwama over wanted President General orders. Details of that on page 26. Above the lead story on the New Telegraph this morning, we have that Tinubu urges ECOWAS countries to ratify, implement anti-corruption protocol. Edo Guba, INEC begins PVC distribution on Thursday. Details of that on page 26. Of course, countdown to September 21 election in Edo State. And police summon Nigeria over alleged terrorism financing. Others. Details on pages 4 and 29. And there's this report here that says fuel subsidy to hit 6.884 trillion naira by year end. So many questions. Subsidy still on or not? Riders, Tinubu approves use of NNPC Limited's 2023 dividend for subsidy. Interesting. Federal government to begin crude oil sale in Naira to Dangote refinery. Orders October 1. All of that on pages 2, 3, and 4 of the New Telegraph. And in the green strip, we have childhood sleep patterns influence adolescent alcohol and marijuana use. That's on page 26. Let's quickly see the leadership now. Leadership leads with fresh crisis, rocks PDP over Congresses. That's on page 7. Concern over fate of 20 abducted medical students. The riders' victims spent 6 days in captivity. Abductors demand 50 million naira ransom. Jos Maiduguri Vastis seek release of students. And of course, an update on Mpox is right here on the front page of the leadership, and it says shun bush meat consumption. That's on page 10. And of course, as already read by Victor, Abdullahi Usman appointed as NACON chairman. Arabi goes away. Above the masthead, we have Dar Communications retires senior directors. Question, why? Details on page 7. Police invite NLC president over terrorism financing. Of course, that's about it. Finally, we have Cardoso deputies under scrutiny over alleged generous approvals. Interesting caption here. And the generous, Victor, Chukwudi, you want to say this? You said the generous, it has, please help me with the term.
What? Alleged what?
Generous approvals. Cardoso deputies under scrutiny over alleged generous, in quotes, approvals.
That's an adjective pushed into...
Just tell us it's quotes.
I was looking for something appropriate. I didn't want to use quotes.
That's an adjective commissioned to label or, give them, yes, a sign.
The generosity has, exactly.
Something that is not quite out there in the clear. Look. Let's begin on this note, please, if you permit me. Shun bushmeat consumption. Who's actually asking us to do that?
Mpox, perhaps.
Sometimes there are some headlines I attribute to panic, from some people. When COVID was there, was it COVID? Yeah, they were asking us to shun something, the eating of bushmeat.
That's Ebola.
Like Ebola, not COVID. Yeah, that's why I asked the question. I knew something was wrong with that. That was actually when I started eating a lot of cutting grass, the grass cutter.
Because it will become cheaper, right?
So it was cheaper. It has always been more juicy. And have you ever eaten the pofada, that snake that hardly can crawl fast?
I haven't eaten
but when
any.
It bites you, the fangs actually...
I haven't eaten any.
You haven't eaten
anything called snake.
And I can see that you're shunning me. The pofada meat is like chicken, Anyhow, let us not engage in panic headlining. When we said stop eating bushmeat when Ebola was there, the question I asked was, all the time they'd been eating bushmeat, Ebola didn't descend on us. Why would it suddenly be the case that bushmeat gave us Ebola? After Ebola, people kept eating bushmeat.
No, but I think that the idea at the time was that since Ebola has a thing with animals,
yes,
all right, why not at the moment just
stay
away from it?
Cautionary.
So it's not because it's it's been there. That's not the issue. But that at the moment there's a risk.
Cautionary.
There's a threat.
It's just that you don't tame the soft palate of people.
And I'm still quite young, so I can't bear what you are daring.
Some people want to become Victor the Young. We only know of Chooks the boy here. Anyhow.
Now illicit financial flows
yes,
is being blamed for Africa's poor infrastructure.
The bane of
Africa's poor infrastructure.
The bane of Africa's development. Illicit financial flows.
And that's what the Nigerian government is...
of underhand business. And the greatest culprit is lack of solid institutions to check the trend. Please, I didn't say checkmate.
I agree.
Editors are beginning to abuse that word, checkmate. You don't checkmate things, you check things. Anyhow, we have to have solid financial structures, to get the kind of preventative measures we want to be in place in terms of people who are trying to do it under the table. As long as those institutions are not there, some people who are not too good at restraining self will keep on taking advantage of the system. And Africa needs kind of connectivity, if I may borrow that word from GSM telephony, connectivity in terms of dealing with it. You can't become an island. You can't treat it in a silo kind of attitude. You have to connect to others. You have to, go with others before you can really get these financial flows stemmed, if not eradicated. So we wish them luck. Okay? Relief as crude oil sales to Dangote and others begin when?
October 1.
What I am listening out to here is Dangote's man, coming out just as he did before AGO came out, was rolled out. I'm listening out to hear him say that when petrol does come out as well, the PMS, it is also going to have a price reduction that AGO experienced. Remember, AGO was hitting 1,900, 1,900. It dropped 1,200, which is quite appreciable. I pray that happens to petrol. It should happen to petrol. Otherwise, people like Victor, people like Enyere, Chukudi would ask, landing cost is no longer there. So why would there not be a price differential compared to what was being freighted to Nigeria after refining?
Besides landing costs, does it mean the subsidy will eventually go? Because, well, the report this morning here says fuel subsidy to hit 6.884 trillion naira by year end. So it means subsidy is still with us.
Did it come from NNPCL? Did it come from Ajurin Gelali? Did it come from Bayo Nanuga?
There's a writer to that story. Okay. Tinubu approves use of NNPC Limited's 2023 dividend for subsidy.
Their dividend?
Yes, which NNPC stated yesterday. They actually came out to say how much they had made profit, for the year 2023. And the directive is that money should be used for subsidy. So the question, in some quarters is, do we still have subsidy with us? Fuel subsidy with us?
I'm not going to comment on that. I hate to comment on things that I don't have solid background information.
Neither will I.
We will look at that later. But I remember saying all this talk about subsidy still being there, none of it ever came from a government spokesman. So I kept asking, who is trying to cry more than the bereaved? Worried people will tell you, which one can they take Panadol for another man headache now?
But it depends then on who the bereaved is here.
It depends on who the bereaved is. Okay.
Anyways, all eyes on the appeal court today. The case, filed by the ex-CGN on Oregon will be heard today. So, 5 years after, what would the verdict be, and what will be the implication of the verdict, just in case it's in favor of Onorgan?
Yes, his lead counsel, Adeboyega Awomolo's son, is Awomolo. You see, Africa is Africa. Tone. Without tone, Africa has no language. Okay, very good. He's asking the appellate court to quash his conviction primarily on ground of want of jurisdiction bias and absence of fair hearing. The good thing about democracy is that you are in a position to speak up, even when the presidency perceivably does something you think does not quite favor you or favor your patch of this earth. So all we can say is let fair hearing happen, let him have his day in court, and at the end of the day the men in wig are going to tell what actually is the outcome of that case. We wish him luck.
I think what this serves to achieve basically is to clear his name.
Oh, well?
Because I'm sure now he's past the age of being CJ, and so the conflict of whether he should be reinstated wouldn't arise. It's just to clear his name for posterity.
Of course, nobody wants a blemish.
And let's look at education. There's a warning strike,
service.
21-day warning strike notice, which has been issued by ASU. And, it's the pact implementation face-off on that one. And then another labor issue at the moment is the fact that the police is inviting the NLC president for terrorism financing. What's your take on this? Both issues.
Let's start with the last one. The police inviting the NLC president for terrorism financing, and no problem.
And then you want to link that with the raid that happened at the NLC headquarters?
Fine, no problem. They may be connected. They may not be connected. You see, the problem with these stories like this one, is that they tend to come from a background that has not given you enough information to say which way the cat really jumps. So it's a story you watch play out, except if some guys with their nose on the ground, a real news hounds, the journalists we knew of old, go investigating and certain things get revealed. Otherwise, you just watch as things plays out. You understand? We still don't know who raided the office. Or have you read up something suggesting it?
But the police is now inviting the NLC over allegations of terrorism financing.
That's why I said a matter like
but
this.
But it's okay.
Of course.
Details.
Things are always okay. Things are always okay. You can be invited for anything. Just make sure you have a stout defense of your position. If you know you've not done what is being alleged. It's as simple as that.
And Chukwudi, I missed two stories here that I think we should have a glimpse of. MTN, others get permits to generate electricity.
Okay.
That's on page 23.
Is that one of the off-grade? I think there are about 9 of them.
And finally, NIMET forecasts 3-day rains from Monday. Page 6.
Monday yesterday or from next week?
No, it should
Monday?
be from next week because this is today's paper.
3-day rain.
Well, it said 3-day rains on Monday.
On Monday.
No, I haven't seen actually. Actually, whether it's from yesterday.
We had the rains. Exactly, because the rains yesterday.
Because it's refused to stop.
I know there's always a 10-day forecast. Yeah, they take it up to 10 days, but I think it's
from yesterday.
That's from yesterday. So I don't know about the prediction aspect of it.
And unfortunately, not a good job here. No dates. It's being posted on a Tuesday. And they're telling us from Monday to Wednesday. So it becomes a bit of a challenge whether it was yesterday
the story is hazy,
to Wednesday tomorrow or from next
week. The story
is
hazy. So and when this happens, you don't blame NIMET. You blame the editor who took the story without verifying which of the Mondays is being
There's
talked
no date.
about.
Probably the story came in late.
Yeah, it's likely to be the rains we're seeing now. Actually, started yesterday. The rains we see up until today.
For something
won't let up at all.
Exactly.
It's trying to have back on what it missed.
All right, Chukwudi, you need to go, but there's this one. I hope parents will pick up this paper and read up the story. Childhood sleep patterns influence adolescent alcohol and marijuana use. The thing about children not sleeping on time, or rather not having enough sleep. There's according to medical science, there's a number of hours a child should sleep.
Yes.
From birth till certain age. Even as adults, there are a number of hours that you should sleep.
Exactly.
So if as a
you
child,
must do at least 5 hours.
Good. If as a child you're not having enough sleep, this report is saying that it could influence the use of alcohol and marijuana much later in life.
The tracing into alcohol and marijuana is what I can talk about. Otherwise, I'll tell you that anytime you distort nature, it's like blocking flood, blocking the path of water is going to attack the foundation of your home. So anytime you block nature, there's some effect. But I don't know about alcohol.
I thought for a moment that Yenre was prescribing a 500-year-old whiskey for the weather.
I thought you were going to say she was
it's too early to be talking about
marijuana for Chooks the boy.
Let's take a break. When we come back, the real conversation will continue. Stay with us.
know that President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize, and other essential food items for the next 5 months? The President has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of degree in mass communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session. BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803 383 4343. Announcer, Registrar.
Can you smell the 5 million naira?
Yeah, we can.
Can you smell the 5 million naira? Name something that might be a deal breaker for you in a romantic relationship.
Trust.
Cheating.
I would say small d.
Mommy, are you shy?
It can see. We are coping.
Oluwa Seun.
No pressure.
Pressure to what?
No pressure, no pressure.
2 strikes.
No pressure.
Name a way most people get over their ex.
Crying.
Crying. Something says.
Join body with your football buddy GoTV for correct goals and action. Sharply reconnect on top GoTV Max with 7,200 naira to torchlight La Liga, Serie A, Europa, and select Premier League games live on top SuperSport. GoTV, love it.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
Good morning, Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation this morning, let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Nigeria's economy is heavily dependent on crude oil, accounting for over 70% of its revenue and nearly 90% of its foreign exchange earnings. However, widespread oil theft in the country's oil-producing regions is significantly eroding the nation's income, resulting in substantial losses to the national treasury. The serious challenge of oil theft in the country accounts for an estimated loss of billions of dollars annually. This illicit activity not only drains the country's economic resources, but also poses serious threats to environmental safety and national security. Experts in the oil sector say the issue of oil theft has deep roots in Nigeria, with organized crime syndicates often responsible for siphoning crude oil from pipelines leading to significant financial losses for the government and multinational oil corporations. The experts estimated that Nigeria loses over 200,000 barrels of crude oil daily to this illegal trade, translating to a staggering revenue loss that undermines the nation's economic stability. The implications of oil theft extend beyond financial loss. The environmental impact is profound. Oil spills from illegal tapping can lead to devastating consequences for the ecosystem, affecting agriculture, fishing communities, and public health in the surrounding areas. In response to this growing crisis, the federal government has initiated several measures to combat oil theft. Enhanced surveillance and monitoring pipelines through advanced technology such as drones and tactical air command strikes, coupled with providing support to ground forces against oil thieves and bunkerers, have all been introduced to detect and prevent illegal tapping activities. However, despite the ongoing operations to curb this crime against the country, oil theft continues to thrive, with new methods and technologies being employed by thieves. Our guests on Good Morning Nigeria will discuss these questions and more next.
All right. Thank you very much, Ibrahim Hamidu, for that background report. And to get our conversation going, let me introduce here in the studio Major General Emeka Onumajuru, Chief of Training and Operations at the Defense Headquarters. It's a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. We have also been joined here by Majid Dahiru, who is a newspaper columnist and public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Also here for the conversation is Patrick Agbambu, public safety and security expert. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let me begin with the general in the house. What do we know as at today? There's been a lot of back and forth. We're making some progress, and then it looks like we're not. What do we know at the moment about crude oil theft and the battle to retrieve Nigeria's oil wealth from oil thieves?
Thank you very much. I think first we'll all understand the importance of the oil sector in the national economy to the extent that it's the mainstay of the economy, and that I think explains the criticality of ensuring that our oil installations are well protected. You're correct, crude oil theft is ongoing, but I want to believe that it's a problem that has been there for a very long time. But the issue now is that the scale and dimension is on the increase to the extent that it begins to affect the national economy and also the well-being of the people in the Niger Delta, considering the environmental implication. But much is being done as of today to ensure that this stops. And I can rightly confirm that the level of crude oil theft now is very low, because for the past 3 months there has been a gradual increase in the daily production rate. I'm sure NNPC will be able to give the data, but there's a sustained increase because of ongoing operations to ensure that the key pipelines, say Trans-Niger Pipeline, Trans-Ramos Pipeline, Trans-Escavos Pipeline, are all safe. I wouldn't say that the problem is we're out of the woods. We're not out of the woods. We are still there, but progress is being made.
What has become of the 2.5, the infamous 2.5, is it 2.5 miles pipeline?
When you talk about 2.5 miles pipeline, that is the main pipeline now.
No, the one that is used to siphon oil.
You see, the siphoning oil comes from various dimensions. You have those that break the pipelines, you have those that attack the pipeline wellheads, you have those that even go onshore to steal crude oils. So it comes in different dimensions. But the important thing is that the key pipelines, the Trans-Niger Pipeline, is where most of this activity is being done, because all the other pipelines feeds into the Trans-Niger Pipeline. And for some time now, that has been the focus. Keep the Trans-Niger Pipeline safe. Once that is safe, then the amount of theft will be reduced, and that is what is happening.
Major General, from your experience, being a part of this operation, trying to safeguard our natural resource, what would you say is responsible, for crude oil theft? And then, would you say that, these thieves are being aided?
Yeah, I think it's first is sheer criminality by organized criminal groups. We're a lot of ecosystem made up of those with the technical know-how to break these pipes and connect, transporters that move these pipes, even those that sell. It's a huge criminal ecosystem. Now, when you look at it, those that are involved too, the products, illegal refined products, they go far and wide in this country. Some of them up to Lagos area, you have them being sold. So that is the ecosystem we are dealing with. But the reasons why it is difficult to tackle, first is the terrain. The terrain is very challenging. Swampy, high dense areas, forested. So even when you know something is happening, it still takes a little bit of having that capability to reach there. Apart from the terrain, even the local knowledge. The oil bunkers have the local knowledge of the terrain, where these pipelines are. So it sort of makes it easier for them to be able to perpetrate their crimes. I wouldn't say communities are involved, but there are some elements of community support, some communities, in the sense that maybe the communities don't volunteer information on what is happening within their community where these pipelines pass. That's also another factor that makes it quite difficult. And the proceed, wherever you have a criminal network that the proceed is high, that in itself is an incentive. Now, look at it against the laws. The laws are also not stringent enough. So that level of deterrence, knowing that if I'm caught doing this, I might end up in jail for 15 years, it's not there. So even when arrests are made, people are given a slap on the wrist. So in itself, it doesn't deter people from going into this level of criminality. So we still need to look at the laws. Even the infrastructures, the pipelines, some of them are very old, been there since 60s. They also need to be upgraded. The technology to monitor the pipelines are not yet there. Metering is just of recent, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they commenced metering. So we also need to meter these points to be able to know what actually do we produce, what do we sell. If nothing else, it helps you to build a bigger database on what is happening. So that metering that has been ordered by Mr. President, I think it's in order, and it will be part of the solutions to addressing this issue. Now, issues of oil wellheads, those that are not being used for whatever reason, what is the security regime around it? Are they properly protected to the extent that people, unauthorized people, do not have access to them? So we also need to look at that. Fiscalization. Some personnel of the Nigerian Navy have been trained for fiscalization. The essence is for them to be able to be deployed to these terminals, but that have not been done. Now they are doing some form of refresher training to enable them to deploy to those terminals. If that is done too, it will improve the entire accountability in the process, and maybe we'll begin to have much more.
Well, talking about accountability and more solutions, do you ever think Nigeria would get there? Like you rightly stated at the beginning, that crude oil theft has been on for a very long time. And, there's, in some quarters, it has been discussed that maybe the high and mighty are involved in this, because from what you have said, it's a huge network. And we know that ordinary Nigerians cannot be involved in such, kind of activity. So when I talked about being aided, you mentioned the community. But do you think that the reason why it's not going down, despite the efforts of security operatives and even the government, could be that there are some interests?
Well, I want to believe that the various programs being introduced to address this issue will ultimately positively impact on issues of accountability. I just talked about metering, for instance. It's like you're selling something, you cannot exactly say what quantity am I producing. What quantity am I selling from point A or point B? So when you have metering, it brings much more accountability. When you have this fiscalization that involves maybe the armed forces personnel, it also gives you much more accountability. On our own part, we've been able to introduce a joint monitoring team among all the security agencies that have been deployed in the Niger Delta. The idea is for them to also monitor our own personnel. What are they doing? Are they being professional in whatever they do? We've also deployed a Joint Intelligence Fusion Center also made up of the entire security agencies, to be able to understand how this criminal network operates, be able to provide actionable intelligence that will allow the troops to move. So when you add all these pieces together, you will see that they are all meant to improve that accountability process.
All right. Thank you very much, General. Let's keep you on hold at the moment. I understand that CSC Babawale Afolabi, who is National Public Relations Officer of the NSCDC, has joined us. Mr. Afolabi, thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me this morning.
Now, let me just engage you straight up. The NSCDC has a mandate to protect, public assets. And I ask, why is it that it has been difficult through the years to protect the nation's pipelines from crude oil thieves?
Yeah, thank you very much, presenter. Well, like we all know that the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, we have a defined and well-spelled statutory mandate that is protection of critical national assets and infrastructure, which includes protection of pipelines, protection of electrical power installations, protection of telecommunication gadgets, and amongst others. But tackling the issue of the day, that is tackling the crude oil theft in Nigeria. First, I want us to know that the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, under the leadership of our visionary and highly resourceful Commandant General Dr. Hamid Abubakar Haudi, MNIHUFR, he has mapped out formidable strategies in combating crude oil theft in our nation. And in all the 36 states of the Federation, we have a commands, and we have a squad called the Anti-Vandal Squad, and they are highly trained and fully armed to combat menace of pipeline vandalism. So, but one thing I want us to know is that in the last 3 years, we've been able to arrest and destroy about 500 illegal bunkering sites and refineries. We dismantled everything. And apart from that, about 1,250 suspects, suspected oil theft, and their sponsors were being prosecuted as well, arrested and prosecuted. So we are doing and trying our best at the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. And aside that, the Commandant General, in his own wisdom, have to come up with another squad. They call them the CG Special Intelligence Squad. And this squad have been doing wonderfully well in order to wage war against the oil theft and other economic sabotage. But some of the difficulties we are seeing, we are having is the area of synergy, and actually we've been doing wonderfully well, but we still have to do more. Security is a collective responsibility. Well, I know we have people we're working talking about sister agencies and some joint task forces that we are working with. I know at the Southeast we're having the Operation Python Dance. Yes, we work together with other sister agencies. And I remember in Niger Delta, we're having the Operation Niger Sieve and some other people that we're working with. This thing, just like what the General has said, that it has been on for so many years. And what we are doing gradually is to just try and copy with the other sister agencies. And with what we are doing now, we can see this thing is now on a minimum page. And I believe very soon this thing will be a thing of the past. And also, we've been working more on our intelligence. Someone once stated, and I quote, that the distance between problem and solution is intelligence. Even before the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, before we start carrying rifle, we've been, the work of our intelligence officers, can be overemphasized. So what we are doing now is trying to work more with the host community, especially the people in the area where we are having crude oil theft. And we noticed that these people, they are working in collaboration with the people carrying out this nefarious act. And the issue we're having with them is that they're not, working well with us. At the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, we have a cliche that is, when you see something, you say something. These people, they are not ghosts. And we security operatives, we are not miracle workers. We feed on information, so they don't give us prompt information. If they've been, talking to us often, because most times when we go to this community, we do a kind of sensitization. We try to let them know the disadvantages of these environmental degradation. So we always talk to them, but we notice that because they were giving them stipends, they're giving them money, so they find it very hard to work with any security operatives. And we are even using this opportunity, just like I said, that we need to work more on sensitization and tell them the disadvantages and the bad effect of what they are doing in their various communities. And also, we notice that these youth is because they found nothing doing. I don't think maybe they have work they're doing and things are going on well with them. They won't do a kind of collaboration with all these bad people. So what we indulge in, and we know actually the governments are really trying, but we all need to work together because security is a collective responsibility. For instance, these youths that have nothing doing, if the government can create a kind of stipend for them, maybe something they are having every month, they will just, they won't be able to, they won't try to involve themselves in this nefarious act. For instance, in the Europe, there's this group, they have this potential, they can sing, but they didn't have job. But the government is giving them stipends. And I remember the government is giving them £40 monthly. And with that £40, they were able to use it judiciously to the extent that the name of the group is UB40, which means unemployed benefit with £40. So gradually, up in Nigeria today, everybody, in all over the world, everybody knows UB40. And I believe if the government can also do this in synergizing and working with all sister agencies to, this will really help. And the last one is stiff punishment. These people know that actually, if they're being caught, maybe you'll be given maybe 3 years or 4 years imprisonment. If they're being caught, if they are given stiff punishment, maybe life imprisonment.
All right, stringent punishment, what you're advocating. Of course, the Major General already mentioned that, that the laws are also too weak when it comes to crude oil theft. Thank you very much, Babawale Afolabi, CSA. We'll get back to you, but let's come back to the studio now and hear from Patrick Agwambu, a public safety and security expert. Listening to the Major General and, of course, the CSA, Afolabi talk about information, that they need information to function. And then you want to look at the kinds of network involved in this oil theft. It's a very well coordinated network. There are pipelines constructed. There are vessels that come into the country, take this away. So this is not, I don't know. I want to find out from you. Do you really think that information is what is required to tackle crude oil theft? Or you think that there are other things that could, assist in dealing with this matter?
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if we remember the last time we were talking this topic here in this studio. I was sitting down where the general was sitting. And I remember I pointed out two major problems. That is one, the metering. In fairness, we do not know how many crude oil we are producing in the country today. And that is the truth. Whatever we're saying is based on what the NNPC feeds the nation, what they say. Nobody can verify that. The metering issue has been going on. Orders have been given by the president for so many. The previous government did so, this current government also have done so. People have been trained, but there is reluctancy on the side of the NNPC, which is the major operator and the coordinator of all the other joint companies. So that is one problem. So we cannot tell how much we are producing, so we can't even tell how much is being taken away. I also pointed out the other time that, yes, we know that the security forces are trying their best in controlling pipeline vandalism. But what is the significant number of that is being stolen through the busting of the pipelines compared to what is being lifted from the terminals?
Vessels.
Where the vessels come, a vessel can come with a permission to lift about 10,000 liters. and it's coming with the ship itself, the vessel has a capacity of 100,000, and it's been loaded. Who confirms how many is being loaded in that vessel? That brings to the issue about physicalization that the general has also pointed out. We need to call a spade a spade. We need to be able to address this issue. There are many instances where a vessel that has a permit, yeah, they come with permits, they come with approvals. But who can confirm to Nigerians what is being loaded? We need to have an alternative source of confirmation so that transparency can be recorded.
Some have also accused the security agencies of complicity in all of this.
Are they there?
Because like you said, it is not the ones that you tap with maybe hose and little pipes that is the issue. Yeah. It is the ones that are lifted. So is it easy to move things of that magnitude on our territorial waters without relevant security agencies knowing about it?
Okay, for instance, we have had instances. I always have presence in the Niger Delta area to confirm what we're saying. For instance, there have been so many vessels that have been arrested, and they will flash approval. Now, what is the capacity to find out, to compare what the approval says and what is the content? In some cases where the security agencies have found some discrepancies, they have also chased after these vessels. We have cases here, at least Nigeria has set an example in Africa that once there was a case that was successfully prosecuted. Again, political interferences pleaded for out-of-court settlement. But it's on record in Nigeria here. So we need to be able to get this issue done, no matter what the security forces are doing. Yes, they have contracted private security companies to guide the pipelines. How well is that being done? Because, yes, the shallow waters, the general talked about local knowledge, which we'll talk in security. Okay, the terrain is quite difficult. So having a navy that operates in a higher water may not be able to meander through some of this. So the locals, the private company has that capacity expectedly to be able to monitor this. But how well are they doing it? Who is checking what they're doing? Let's leave what propaganda and publicity, media bliss, some of them are doing. But how well can we confirm all this? I'll tell you, last time I also said here, I have interacted with some of the people in some of these communities. And I believe that government till now have not done much in terms of buying these communities to understand that this is our commonwealth. That is why they can aid and support whoever is coming to do whatever illegal business in those places. They see that this is our crude oil. About a week ago, somebody from that community was telling me, oh, we're talking about arresting people who are being caught with oil vandalism. It's our oil, Niger Delta oil. Minerals that are found in the north is only for them. But the ones in the south is for the public, for everybody. There's need for serious sensitization for the people to understand and buy this. Without this, they won't be able to provide that actionable intelligence that the general talked about. The information we're talking about will not come so that we'll be able to check even those smaller thieves, I could say. But the bigger thieves are there because they have international markets.
Are the bigger thieves not known?
Of course, they are known.
By who?
Of course, they are known because it's international syndicates. There are countries that rely on stolen crude oils from Nigeria. Because it's cheaper for them.
Of course.
There are countries, some of our neighboring countries.
So who are those who make it possible?
Now, this is where, in Nigeria today, is one of the things I would say we have a lot of, there's no need for new, some people talk about strategies and all that. We have existing strategy for the security operatives. We have the West African surveillance system, which the Nigerian Navy are aware of. You can assess what is happening in the water. You can trigger off other water lines, and that is through the process that some of these ships are being are arrested. But what I'm saying now is, when they flash some of these documents, when you intercept them, when they flash it, what do?
You interrogate.
You interrogate. And the process of movement, there are so many of them, and yet the political will is where we
Political
need to check.
will. Thank you very much for that point, Agambu. Let's find out from G. Did I hear what he thinks about this? You know, this is huge. We need to talk about this seriously. 437,000 barrels of crude oil per day is lost due to theft, vandalism, and other criminal activities. This is massive, and it's a daily occurrence. And like the Major General has said, it's been on for years. In your own view, you know, Mr. Agambu has talked about the fact that we have small thieves and big thieves. Maybe the small thieves are being caught once in a while. But what is the issue, you know, with dealing with the major thieves, you know, in this country? Why can't we put a halt to this, you know, criminal element once and for all? What do you think the challenge is?
Okay, there are many challenges when you talk about oil theft in the Niger Delta and other oil producing communities. But I think the good thing is the Nigerian state is beginning to overcome these challenges. The recent charge by the president to the chief of defense staff to the effect that he should coordinate all other sister security agencies to make sure that they bring a final halt, a final stop to oil theft in the Niger Delta seems to be yielding results. And so sometimes, yes, the challenges have been highlighted, the issues are out there, but in the past few weeks and months, we've seen a significant improvement in the quantity of crude oil that is produced and recovered, to the extent that I think in the month of June, the NUPRC reported that there was not a single case of oil theft in the entire country. And that is because of the effort of the armed forces, other sister security agencies, and of course the NNPC, that is like the backbone of Nigeria's oil and gas industry and infrastructure. I say this because there are gains we've recorded. Right now, oil production has increased from less than 1.3 million barrels per day to over 1.6 million barrels per day. And in fact, according to information available to some of us, the latest figure must be as high as 1.8 million barrels per day. And so they are steadily approaching their benchmark of 2.5 million barrels per day target. So, of course, apart from oil theft, you also need more investment to produce crude. But in areas of mitigating against oil theft, I think a lot is being done now. So, my focus will be what is being done rightly and how it should be sustained. For example, the concern about metering and monitoring is one that I think that the NNPC itself has been able to substantially overcome, because they've acquired capabilities through their recently established command and control center. We are able to monitor the entire network of pipelines in the Niger Delta along the three corridors of East, West, and Central. The entire network of pipelines are monitored 24 hours of every day through consistent surveillance. There is nothing that is happening today along the entire network of our pipelines that is not monitored from the command and control center, from where they escalate, breaches to the armed forces. And the report we also get is that the armed forces have been very up in their game, because whereas they need patrol the waterways to ensure that anybody who has stolen crude does not get away with it into the international waters, the Air Force carry out, flying missions across hotspots that have been identified to take out illegal activities, and it is ongoing, while ground forces move in to destroy illegal refineries and aid the restoration of breaches or the recovery of violations of the pipeline. So far, of the 6,000 violations on our pipelines that aids oil theft, more than 5,000 have been recovered under the cover of the security of the armed forces by NNPC and its technical personnel. So this is where we are today. And that is because the political will appears to have finally, is now forthcoming, because the president has said, look, I want to see the end of this problem. And I think that if this current effort is sustained, we might be talking about a post-oil theft era in Nigeria within the foreseeable future. So there's been improvement, and it's important we say this.
But you are talking about monitoring pipelines here and there.
Yes.
I think here everybody seems to agree that the major theft is done with vessels.
Okay, let me explain that. Let me explain that. You can't steal crude oil through lifting of crude from the legal terminal. It's not possible. There's no documentation you can present. Let me tell you how crude oil is stolen. You see, you have a vast network of pipelines. So imagine 6,000 bridges on those pipelines. It will yield substantial amount of crude that are taken into local barges, and then they are sailed towards the sea. From where it is now bunkered into illegal vessels that are now loading. Now the problem is this: these illegal vessels, they usually turn off their navigational system because they know that they're illegal. They operate under the cover of darkness. And well, it will not be quite right to reveal the tactics that the armed forces are now using to detect vessels that their navigational systems are turned off.
But you're right to tell us what the results are.
The result is that you have seen an upsurge in oil production from less than 1.3 to 1.8 million barrels per day, with zero report of oil theft in the months of June and July, according to the NUPRC. This is where we are. Now, I listened to also the issue of community support. Yes, it is important. And this is where we need to focus on the political leadership of the oil-producing states. You see, the level of misery, hunger, and poverty in the Niger Delta communities is unbearable and is unfair. And it's an opportunity for us to call on the governors of this state to please utilize the 13% revenue they're getting from this same resource to better the lives of the people, to the extent that they will now see that they have a stake in this infrastructure that gives them their daily bread. With that, they will invest their emotions, their sentiments, and their legitimacy in the Nigerian state and its infrastructure, oil and gas infrastructure, which is the backbone of our economy. So I think the major challenge here is we need to uplift the social conditions of the people in the Niger Delta. Otherwise, it will be easy for them to look the other way if they can get an alternative of living from these other illegal activities. But this responsibility is for the governors. If you look at the allocation from crude oil revenues, it is humongous going to this state. The people need to feel the impact of this revenue coming from their God-given endowment. As we put a charge before the state governor to say, look, do what other countries have done for you producing communities with the revenues you have. I mean, this practice of an average Nigerian governor having a personal ambition that he begins to work on from the first day in office as governor for 8 years without investing adequately in the human development capital of his own people is something that we must really, really discourage. Other than that, I can assure you that the charge of the president, the charge to the armed forces to end crude oil theft is yielding results, because the armed forces is up and running on this matter. Right. And like the general said, they are beginning to monitor their own men who are believed or suspected to sit with some of these undesirable elements. And a lot is being done in that regard. That is what we've seen by way of an upsurge in the quantity of crude we've produced over the past 3 months.
Quantity of crude being produced has increased. Of course, we can see the numbers. Thank you, Majid Hero. But let's get back to Major General now. Yes, the quantity has increased, that is being produced. But we still know that some are still being stolen and illegal refining is still being done. I want you to tell us what your experience is like, about the illegal refining taking place in the Niger Delta, even right here. And then what is being done in that regard?
Thank you very much. I think first, like my friend said, clearly there has been an upsurge in oil production to that 1.8 million barrels per day. And it's actually based on the directive of Mr. President to the CDS to entirely coordinate all security operations in the Niger Delta to ensure that crude oil theft, illegal oil refinery is completely removed. Now, I think what we've done is to upscale the level of operation in the sense that you have much more men, say, in areas like the southeast, where you have also a lot of oil bunkering within Anambra, Imo State, and Abia State. There is a surge of military personnel to make sure that that is not happening. So to a certain extent, that area has been secured. And then also the Navy have been carrying out intensive choke point operations. Now, it's very easy to siphon fuel, but definitely you need to pass through choke points using a small cotonou bolts and badges. So once you block all those choke points, like the military have done, so it becomes difficult for you to, even if you are successful in stealing the oil, how do you take it out? Apart from the choke points on the sea too, also there are new checkpoints on the key arteries into the Niger Delta and also out. So if you have been successful in taking it out, then the truck drivers and the vehicles are also searched. And you see that a lot of these vehicles will have an SOP really. If you're caught with stolen crude, the vehicles are bound immediately. No stories about it. Even on the high seas, if you're caught with tapping or stolen crude, the Air Force can immediately take it out. We know it has some implication, but that to an extent have also yielded some results. On its own, it's a form of deterrence. Nobody wants to lose his car because he is caught with 20 sacks of illegal refined petroleum. So that is also working now. The illegal refining sites, I tell you, about 7,500 have been destroyed as at last month. 7,500 IRS. And the disparity of the criminal group is really amazing. Now they also have some mobile refineries. They can easily collapse the thing, move it to another location. So it's a problem that mutates. But the armed forces is up to the task. The level of destruction is high. And also the level of removal of illegal connections. About 5,500 to illegal connections have been removed. Of course, all these are with the support of NNPC. I agree with him. NNPC have a clear view of all the pipelines. If you go to their monitoring room, you could be able to see in different dots, red, green, to show you what is happening. And now those informations are fed to the armed forces, who also responds to tackle the situations there.
If you said that the NNPC has a clear view of the pipelines,
the
and all,
yes.
Yeah. So what's now delaying the metering process of those pipelines?
Well, the metering is ongoing. I wouldn't speak for NNPC, but I know Mr. President has given a directive, and the contract for the metering has been awarded, so it's ongoing.
Now, a former governor, I had posed this question, to Mr. Bambo earlier. A former governor in the Niger Delta area once accused the GOC of running an oil theft syndicate. It's out in the air. It's not a secret. And that brings us to the question of the kind of personnel who are posted to the Niger Delta. For instance, whether at the level of the NSCDC or the military or the Navy, the information is that when you are deployed to the Niger Delta, it is considered a lucrative posting. Why is this so?
Well, I will beg to disagree with you. The armed forces remains, as an institution, very professional in the conduct of their duties. Now, the armed forces, like any other organization, can have one or two bad eggs. That is good enough, but what is the percentage of those bad eggs to overall strength of the armed forces? Are just negligible. And I just told you that the accountability process we are pursuing in the Niger Delta also includes our own personnel. That's why you have a joint monitoring team that has been set up to go around the Niger Delta and also monitor the activities of not just the armed forces, of the entire security personnel. Remember, the charge of Mr. President to the CDS is to take charge of the entire operation. So it's no more issue of this is Army or Navy or police or civil defense. No, all are collapsed under Operation Delta Safe. And this joint monitoring team goes around to see what everybody is doing. And in the Niger Delta, it might surprise you to know we have a standing court martial. A standing court martial means once you're found culpable, immediately you're tried, and the case is dispensed. So that people know that this is a no-go area. If you do this, there are consequences, and that is working. I wouldn't say it's 100% success rate. Like I said, one or two bad eggs. But the bulk of the armed forces, the command of the armed forces remains most professional and accountable in the work they're doing.
The much talked about Tony Elubelu interview, recent Tony Elubelu interview, where he talked about the Bonit terminal, which is supposed to be getting 200,000 barrels per day, turning over less than 3,000 barrels per day. That gives a sense of what still happens within the Niger Delta.
In the past 1 month, the terminal factor of the crude pumped is roughly between 98 to 100%. You can check with NNPC. Terminal factor means when you pump this crude into the pipelines, what quantity did you pump? What quantity is coming out from the other end? 97, 98, 100% consistent for about 3 to 4 weeks. Verified.
Weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's pause you, Major General. Let's get to CSC, Babawale Afolabi. I'm sure you heard how confidently Major General Emeka Onumajuru told us about, security operatives in the armed forces, who are securing, the pipelines and, of course, our resources in the Niger Delta. Can you say the same about the officials of the NSCDC? I ask this because when the Major General was talking, he talked about checkpoints. And when Nigerians hear checkpoints, you know that when those who are willing to play ball get to the checkpoint, they may be allowed to go. And those who do not play ball, of course, are the ones who are caught. Let us know. So far, in your records, the NSCDC, do you have officials that have, been tried, or if you like, taken out of service for any activity that supports oil theft in the Niger Delta?
Definitely. Out of every 12 disciples, there will always be a Judas. So we have. And they're already out of the service now, but I don't want to mention names because the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, we don't compromise. And we have a kind of cliche that is, we used to say collect, bribe, and die. Because if you are being caught, we don't do. My Commandant General, Dr. Hamed Abubakar Howdy, MNI UFR, I didn't take it with levity. So and that's why you hardly see any of our personnel trying to involve in any of these nefarious acts. And just like the General rightly said, in all the flashpoints and all the pipelines all over the Federation, you see all our men there, doing their work hard. And at times, even if we don't, there are some intelligent officers, they don't wear uniform, but they are still there, do their job the way it is supposed to be. So that just like, to buttress what General said.
Okay, it appears we are losing the connection to CSC Babawale. We'll get back to you when the connection to you is much more stable. But let me get back here to Patrick Abambo. Do you agree with the position of Mr. Babawale and the Major General that we are clocking almost 100% now? Because as of June, though he's talking about a few weeks ago, because as of June, instead of the 2.5 million barrels per day, which Nigeria, is able to turn out as of 2011, it was about 1.3 in June 2024.
Yeah, thank you. I know that the armed forces are doing their very best, and you can't take that away from them. Under the current Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabi Musa, who I know so well, he was in the Niger Delta even as a lieutenant colonel, so he understands the terrain so well. So when that charge was given to him by the president, I was confident that there will be lots of improvement. And yes, there's significant improvement. But my point here is nobody is giving us alternative figure from what NNPC is giving.
Okay. Indeed,
that
because you can
all over the world for you
to
be transparent. There must be transparency in figures. That is the point. Yes, NNPC is trying. They can monitor. They can monitor it. They have a yes. I know about the center.
But is there a way to check NNPC itself?
Yes, that is what I'm talking about. And to check it is having these security services physically there. They are dragging feet. Just a few days ago, the NUPA ROC actually did a refresher call, which the general talked about. For years, some of the naval officers have been trained, but they were not accepted to be deployed. Just a few weeks ago, there's a refresher course now, including the customs officers and all that. We need to see them there. If when they see them there, I will believe about the figures.
Won't that also develop another massive syndicate? Syndicate involving the military, involving security agencies, the NMBC, and all of that. Would that amount to
but
another
but that is a better, at the airports, at our international airports, you have the security services there. So you can verify the immigration, what they are talking about, people moving out, and from the DSS can also verify. They are but here, nobody else can tell us what is being done.
All right, let's get to Mr. Majid Dahiru. You said Nigeria is making significant progress. I want you to speak concerning the international oil companies operating in the oil-producing communities. Because there have also been reports that these international oil companies are also a part of this whole, crime. Yes. So let us know what you know about that.
IOC that has invested so much to de-risk an oil asset or an oil block cannot turn around to now steal its own properties. Oil theft has driven a lot of IOCs out of the Niger Delta. And that is why, in the past couple of years, less than 3% of investment in Africa in oil and gas industry came to Nigeria because of the difficult terrain, operational terrain, particularly as it concerns oil theft. So sometimes we tend to weave a lot of conspiracy theories around very simple issues. Look, oil theft is being done by criminal individuals who simply are trying to profit from other people's investment and sweat. The IOCs are the major oil producers in Nigeria. They cannot turn around to also steal what they are producing. You can accuse the IOCs of not meeting up to the expectation of host communities of development in terms of clean up the environment after polluting the environment from all these activities and all that. But to accuse the IOCs of stealing crude is something that I find a little bit not very realistic. And let me say this, they are partners with the NNPC, they are partners with the Nigerian state in exploiting or exploring our hydrocarbon reserves. So they're strategic partners. And they're also affected by oil theft. Even indigenous operators like Elumelu you mentioned are also affected. So they are all affected. So and that's why they're all working together as a group to confront the common enemy of oil thieves that has made their investment not yielding profit. Because if you pump crude oil, for example, from one end, before you get to the terminal, probably 80% is lost to all of those breaches on the pipelines. But thankfully, why I'm making this point is, where we are today is that almost all of these breaches have been recovered. The NNPC, working with the armed forces and other security agencies, have tightened the noose around oil and gas infrastructure in the Niger Delta. This has yielded results by way of an upsurge in crude oil production. I'm saying we need to sustain this, and the advocacy now should be, how do we even improve on what is already achieved? Because also the challenges we'll be talking about, I think they have somehow managed to overcome those challenges. And it is commendable. I mean, for the first time in our lives, we are seeing a commander-in-chief give a charge, and within a few months, we are seeing results from that charge given, because all hands are on deck. So it tells you that if there's a political will to do the right thing in this country, in every aspect of our national life, it will happen. So I think it is significant that we have recorded an increase from less than 1.3 million barrels per day to about 1.8 million barrels per day. And NNPC is on course to achieving 2.5 million barrels of production per day. So I'm saying that we need to now begin to highlight things that needs to be done to sustain this and make it better. And I hope and pray that this might be the last phase of this concern around oil theft in Nigeria, given the effort we've seen so far. And one thing we need to do is, again, the political leaders of the Niger Delta states must begin to give back to the people that which is their due, so that they can invest their legitimacy in the Nigerian state enough to cooperate with security agencies to safeguard this infrastructure that is the backbone of our economy. The level of misery, you need to see a flash picture from the Niger Delta, and you compare that to other oil-producing countries all over the world, and you see the contrast. So we need to resolve that problem of poverty, misery, and hopelessness in the Niger Delta. And the governors should be given this charge, because they have the resources to turn the lives of people around.
But some have said that, I agree with you to a large extent. Some have said also that the terrain makes development a bit difficult because of the swampy area in large parts of the Niger Delta. But however, most of the issues you have raised is why, well, you know, it's why the PIA came to be.
Yes.
So why is the PIA not resolving the issues that it was meant to resolve?
You see, the PIA is just a law. The PIA set aside, I think, 3% or 2.5% of profits from operating entities, 3%, to develop the host communities. Now, the problem is we've not seen enough investment in the Niger Delta because of this same problem. So now that the effort by the armed forces and other stakeholders is yielding results, hopefully we'll begin to see inflow of investments into the Niger Delta. For information, most of the IOCs have divested from their onshore operations and only operating offshore because of this same problem. So if the terrain is safe now for operations, and we begin to see new investments in the upstream, in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry, we might begin to have operating entities that will not be able to have enough profit to set aside this 3% to complement the 13% derivation fund coming to the states and what the NDDC and Mission Niger Delta is also able to provide. So, for the PI to have full effect, you need that environment to be secured adequately for investors to have confidence enough to come in. So, without investors, the PI, that aspect of the PIA cannot be activated because the profit comes from the investors' profit. The 3% comes from the investors' profit from those investments. So, if there are no investment, there are no profit, so the 3% cannot even be activated. So, you need investment. That fund is not just existing because of the creation of the PIA. No, it's not existing yet. It is simply an anticipation that when operating entities come in and they are able to make profit, 3% should be set aside to develop the host communities. You need that investment.
Does anything need to change with the PIA to make it work better?
I think they need to increase the threshold from 3% to 5%. I've always been an advocate of that.
You know, it was a debate, actually. It was during the process of harmonization.
Yes.
I think the House approved, is it 5% and then the Senate 3% somehow. It was when the joint committee sat that they decided to put it at 3.
So I think 5% should have been more reasonable.
But they are not even saying 3% at the moment. You're asking for 5%.
Saying the reason I'm not saying 3% because there are no investments there.
Anyways.
The existing investments have been divested. But once we secure this terrain today, and investments come in,
and we start seeing 3%, hopefully we can now improve it to 5%.
The reason is the optics. When the people of the community know that, okay, investment will bring 5% of their profit for development, that might incentivize their cooperation with the Nigerian state to further secure the environment.
All right, thank you very much, Majid Dahiru. I'd like to get to Major General Emeka now. You know, the military is doing so much, like you have mentioned. Of course, we're seeing results here and there. I want you to speak to us about the challenges that, you know, the security operatives themselves face. You mentioned the terrain earlier, but away from the terrain, are there other issues, you know, being faced by the security operatives deployed to the Niger Delta to safeguard the pipelines?
Okay, we've talked about the terrain, which is a key problem. Not that we can't surmount it, only that it reduces the speed. For instance, your capability to react quickly, it does reduce it. Community relations is a key part of it. It's a challenge. There's no how you can clearly address oil theft in the Niger Delta without getting the community on side. So I think the level of community engagement will need to be scaled up. And like he said, it's not just community engagement, also works two ways. You engage to get the buy-in, but they should also see more. They are seeing, maybe see more of the benefits of these resources. The government have done a lot. NDDC is there, 13% reservation is there. We need to see those things translate to rural development, translate to socio-economic developments in the Niger Delta. That will also help the armed forces because now you have the community on site. They can easily report information. They can easily tell you what is happening. They can actually ward away people who wants to destroy pipelines in their domain. So we want to see more of community engagement. Again, another challenge we can talk about is in terms of platforms to be able to do these tasks. I agree that no armed forces anywhere in the world gets everything you need. It's not possible, but we can always appreciate much more capability in terms of drone to increase ISR, because we believe that we need to have a clear view of the pipelines 24/7. To be able to do that, you need night fighting capabilities, you need drones to be able to support such operations. And also there's also technologies, even long-range cameras. In the Northeast, it was extensively used, and that was some of the success factors, some of the determinants that aided our success. So we need to see some of these capabilities deployed in the Niger Delta. Of course, they all cost money, but we believe that with the government support, we'll be able to get much more capabilities to enable us to do the jobs.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. The conversation continues. Let's quickly take this break now. Stay with us.
Of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation scheme, Credico. Credico is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credico.ng today for details. This is the renewed hope.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
We must all join hands to work hard so that we build a country for our grandchildren.
My hope is that we develop as a nation where every citizen is given his due right. There is transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Put the interests of this country first and foremost. Interest of Nigeria is being one nation, one people.
The need, if I mean, to put things right, things that have gone wrong before, to try and put right, for this, for the love of country.
All right, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria, where we've been discussing the crude oil theft phenomenon. Well, just before we went on break, we had the general telling us about some of the operational challenges or areas of enhancement that might be required. For now, let me get to CSC Babawale, who has joined us via Zoom to tell us about the nature of synergy that you have with other security agencies in the Niger Delta? I mean, in terms of real synergy, not the kind of synergy that caters for the individuals.
Thank you very much. You have been very, very cordial. And, you know, security is a collective responsibility. Just one security agent can't do it alone. I remember some few months ago in Bayelsa, where we arrested a vessel suspected to have been involved in oil theft of the sea in Beneti. So this operation was in conjunction with the Tantita Security Service Nigeria Limited. So, and the vessel was arrested with about 119 metric tons of crude oil already loaded. And, you know, the beauty of it is that we're able to arrest 12 and 11 community members. This is what we're about synergy. So if not that, you know, we're working together, this operation would have been successful. So we have a cordial relationship, all sister agencies. Hello. So I'm talking about the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army, and every security operative. We're working talking about food oil theft in Nigeria. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, CSC Babawala Falabi. Let's get back in the studio now. Majid Dahiru, I'd like to find out from you as we begin to round up this conversation. You have said the security operatives are doing so much, and yes, some thieves are being caught here and there. What would you want? And then Major General mentioned the fact that the penalties are, you know, very weak, and maybe that's why they have been encouraged, you know, to continue with the trade and all of that. So what would you recommend, you know, that the government does in terms of dealing with those who are involved in this crime?
Oil theft should be declared a treasonable offense that should be punishable by, if not death, but life imprisonment. And we need to create special courts to try expeditiously offenders in this regard. It's very important, because if you know what oil theft has done to Nigeria, between 2009 and 2020, Nigeria lost over 600 million barrels of crude oil to oil thieves. The value of that loss was put at about $45 billion by native. Imagine what $45 billion would have done for this country. And so, for a crime that has existential economic impact on the Nigerian state, I don't think it should be treated with kid gloves anymore. And so, if this is done, it will serve as a severe deterrent against this act, and it will now ease the job of the armed forces, the NMPs and other stakeholders in this regard. So I think we need to make more stringent laws against oil theft in Nigeria.
Now, the people at the National Assembly have continued to talk about this as well. But I'm surprised that no one has taken it up as a challenge to sponsor a bill to that effect. Who should do that now? Should it be the NMPC? Should it be the security agencies? Should it be an executive bill to say, look, let's make it stiffer, the penalties for those who engage in oil theft?
It should be an executive bill. Especially now that we have a president with the political will enough to give this marching order to the armed forces to say, put an end to oil theft. I think it will help that marching order if he sends an executive bill to the National Assembly to the effect that this should make a treasonable offense with capital punishment as the consequence.
Yeah, I'd like to also, you know, put the same question to Patrick Angabo. You spoke earlier and you talked about lack of political will. Is it about just giving marching orders to the security operatives to go after these thieves when we know that the big thieves cannot be caught by the security operatives? What would you want to see done differently in dealing with this challenge?
Yeah, it's good a thing that our president is the chairman of ECOWAS Commission, and that he can use his power to be able to engage other countries that provides routes and support to some of all these ships that pass through their areas. That is one of the things that will help, because if all other countries will cooperate with Nigeria, then it will reduce. Then there won't be free movement of these. But because of the benefits some of these countries get, he needs to be able to use his clout as an international, as a man who has experience, who has that goodwill to be able to get that. I also think that we're talking about development in the Niger Delta. It's part of the political will that has to be. He talked about getting the governors to work, and they need to work. My point here is that sometimes when policies are made, thank God that we have a man as the Chief of Defense Staff who are able to implement what the order given by the President. Some other agencies, are they carrying it out as it should be? You know, when you give marching order, how well are the people who are supposed to interpret it? Then talking about prosecution, there are so many people that have been arrested. What is happening with them? Who has the prosecutory powers to prosecute these people? That is the issue. The security forces, the armed forces do not have the power. We have either the EFCC or the Civil Defense Corps. What are the working together, the synergy with the judiciary to talk about even the little punishment or the consequences that comes with it? How well is it being meted out? You know, before we start talking about the increase in the punishment, there are so many that has not been done. When people know that there's consequences for their actions, then they'll be deterred from doing it. But when people believe that I can do this and find a way around it to get free or delay, then it is free. When they go to court, they are granted bail and they are out there again, going to do the same business, because the judiciary is also not doing what they should do on time as it should be.
All right, thank you very much, Patrick Abambo. Let me get back to General Onumajuru. You spoke about some operational inadequacies earlier. Do you have, I'm just wondering, do you have choppers, for instance, in the area? Because if you talk about not being able to react as quickly as you would have wanted to, I'm just thinking, I'm not a military person, but if you had a chopper above and then maybe you have, you know, some men, you have some boots on the ground, will that help?
Yes, we do have the Air Force. We have the Air Force. We have both fixed wing and rotary. Yes, they're involved.
Is it coordinated in such a way that real time, when you have, you know, boots on the ground, you have the Air Force, you have the Navy at the same time? Because if you have such synergy from both land, air, and sea, it shouldn't be such a big deal, really.
The synergy is there. Remember that the operations in the Niger Delta is under Operation Delta Safe. And the way it's organized, you have the component commands, the maritime, the land, and the air, and all work in synergy. What I'm saying is you can always benefit from additional resources. Not that the capabilities are not there. The capabilities are there. It's the capabilities that have gotten us to the level we are today.
Can be better.
Yes, but you cannot say no to additional capabilities. So the capabilities are there. The Air Force, you need to see some of the clips of the amount of work they are doing there. So the Air Force is on ground, and we have a lot of helicopters. We do have.
All right.
Even the Army just procured some helicopters about 3 or 6 months back. So we do have platforms.
Okay, so CRC Baba Wale, I hope you're there. If your connection is okay, I'd like you to also point out what the challenges are for the NSCDC and what you would want to see done differently, you know, by the government in solving this challenge.
We need tools to work with, especially, you know, drones, in order to do surveillance, you know, and this will really help us. And at the same time, we need more personnel, you understand? So we need more personnel. So if we are able to recruit more personnel, especially with other sister agencies as well. So these are part of the thing. And also we need to increase more of our engagement with the host communities. We need to they need to supply us with information, you know, because these people, they were with olden things. If they can feed us with information, I'm very sure that all these will be a thing of the past. Yeah, but we notice that this is hiding things because of the statements. happen. So if the host communities can come out to tell us what's going on, we'll be able to fish out all these bad eggs and these oil thieves out there. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, CSC Babawala Falabi. As we round off the conversation now, I'm sure you've seen the report, Mr. Majid Adahiru. Some experts say that, you know, the challenge of oil theft is, you know, mostly the responsibility of government, you know, inability to do the needful at the right time and all of that. So I want you to speak to government now. Of course, yes, we know that the president has, you know, asked the security operatives to go do the needful. You have also talked about what should be done as regards the law. But outside that, holistically now, what can the NNPCL do? What can the government do on its own part? And of course, what can the leaders in these communities also do to deal with this challenge?
On the part of the federal government, it is to enhance the capabilities of the armed forces and other security agencies to be able to sustain what they are doing and improve upon what they are already doing in the Niger Delta within the larger framework of national security. So we need to see more investment in platforms and equipment. And if you ask me, welfare of officers and men of the armed forces and other sister security agencies too, so that they can be well motivated to do their job. Now, on the part of the state government, again, I go back to the issue of good governance. Governors of the Niger Delta must begin to deliver good governance in tangible terms. The people in these communities must begin to see the benefit of their God-given hydrocarbon endowment that actually fits the nation. Until such a time comes, you cannot get information from the communities, you cannot get their cooperation. And so we need to put this charge out there. And the president also will have to call these governors through the National Economic Council to say, look, one of the ways we think we can increase the wealth of this nation is for you people to give back to the people what has been given to you, to them, through the monthly allocation that comes by way of 13% derivation. The president must speak to these issues and charge them with the responsibility of playing their part to safeguard our oil and gas assets, national assets. It's important. On the part of the NNPC, they have done quite well, because the acquisition of that capability to monitor, to carry out 24-hour surveillance across the entire network of pipelines in this country is quite commendable. So I'm sure that what they need to do more is more investment in this regard to make sure that they acquire high capabilities, you know, to update their technological capabilities to meet up with emerging challenges and threats from this syndicate of criminals, and to continue the collaboration with the armed forces in every way, without any restriction, without any limitations, so that together they can find a lasting solution to this problem. So otherwise, I don't think we need comprehensive good governance within the framework of ensuring national security of the entire Nigerian space, where every inch of the 920 plus 1,000 square kilometers is secured adequately by the state. It has to be a responsibility that must be taken on by the state.
All right, just before
what about community leaders? You didn't speak to community leaders because, you know,
the truth is, community leaders are not security agencies. Community leaders do not have the capability to prevent oil theft, even if they do not want it. That's what I'm saying. Good governance will mitigate the tendency of members of the host community to either cooperate or engage in these nefarious activities. It should mitigate it. It cannot stamp out criminals entirely, but at least there will be a paradigm shift in their focus of legitimacy from non-state actors that are militants to the state. But the only way to achieve that is to give back to the community that which they deserve. Quality education, quality healthcare, quality rural infrastructure, that will generally develop their socioeconomic lives. That's the magic.
All right. Now, because you spoke about how much the NNPC has done at the moment, and Patrick Abambo has continued to express concern about the NNPC not being transparent enough, how do you think that the NNPC can be checked to ensure transparency and lift the veil on what seems like opacity?
For me, when we talk about opacity, you must understand that the NNPC is Nigeria's national oil company. NNPC is the entity that bakes the cake, the national cake that we all share every month.
So they shouldn't be transparent?
No, what I'm saying is, the nature of NNPC as an oil, as a national oil company, makes it tied to the control of the political leadership of Nigeria. So, however you want NNPC to become, you must direct that demand to the president and commander-in-chief, who incidentally is also the petroleum minister of Nigeria. So, NNPC on its own is not a self-autonomous entity. It's under the control of the federal government. The federal government owns NNPC, and by extension, the Nigerian people. So the operations of NNPC is also streamlined and subject to national security as dictated by the presidency and the presidency of this country.
What I'm asking is this. How do you think that besides NNPC telling us that we have 1 barrel per day, we have 2 barrels per day, we have 3 barrels per day, is how do we devise a strategy to also be able for some other authorities, some other entities to be able to say, okay, NNPC said it's 3 barrels. Yes, I can see it is 3 barrels truly.
There are a number of entities, CSOs, that have the capabilities.
And access?
Of course. That's not it. NNPC itself does not really drill out of the oil. The IOCs do more of the drilling, more of the production. So the IOCs have their information. OPEC have their information. The Ministry of Petroleum have their information. NAITI have their data about extractive industry in Nigeria.
As given them by the NNPC.
No. They have independent rules of verifying. Because NNPC itself is not the custodian of oil production in Nigeria. That is a good thing. They do it in collaboration with other operating entities, the IOCs on one hand and indigenous operators. So all you need to do is to go to the indigenous operators and say, what did you produce this month? Go to the IOCs and say, can you see the data of what you produced this month, if you are interested? But I think there's an impression that people have about the complicity of NNPC in oil theft, and why this question keeps coming up. And I say it simply: if NNPC or its officials are complicit in oil theft, Nigeria will not hear of the phenomenon of oil theft at all, because NNPC will simply underdeclare having stolen the others. The fact that NNPC is at the forefront of the campaign and advocacy against oil theft is just common sense. It tells you that, look, it's affecting them, affecting their revenues.
But sometimes, sometimes when something is stolen and then you raise alarm, it's just so that they don't look your way.
The level of investment that NNPC has done to contain oil theft, they will not need to go to that extent, because you won't even know that it is oil theft.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's take the last 2 minutes to get closing remarks from Patrick Abambo.
Yeah, you see, I've taken time to study other national oil producing countries in other companies in other countries.
Aramco, for instance.
Regulatory, and I've seen that there are alternative ways of finding out, and we're not just going to depend on what we are told by these people. All of us are here when somebody who is a big major player there talked about that the government had given order for NNPC to cooperate, give some crude oil to them, but they're not selling and all that. So there are a lot of issues that needs to be done, and these are the things I'm talking about. Transparency. We'll talk about transparency in Nigeria, and that has to be done. We cannot say yes, they have done this. They are trying their best as much as they can, but I think they should do more. They should do more, better than is being done, and the president is giving them that support for them to be able to do better than they are doing. They don't have any reason not to be able to cooperate with security agencies. Mine is that allow the security agencies that have been approved and been trained to also give us the figures physically there, because it's only what you tell them that they can tell us.
All right, thank you, Patrick Agambu. Major General Emeka Onumajiro, your last words as we round up this conversation.
I think my last word is to reconfirm that the armed forces remains committed and ready to execute Mr. President's charge to eradicate illegal oil bunkering, crude oil theft, refinery in the Niger Delta. So we are committed to that task. We've made appreciable progress. I will continue to make sure that we work towards ensuring that the extent of the mandate is fully executed. We'll only ask for support of Nigerians, support of the communities, to make sure that this job is done and done in good time. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. The way you're smiling right here in the studio, is that how you smile when you're in the Niger Delta? I doubt. I doubt that. All right, CSC Babawale Afolabi, your last words as we round up the conversation. All right, looks like I would not have that connection. So thank you very much, Majid. All right, CSC Babawale, your last words
in
as
1
we
minute,
go.
please.
All right, connection problem. We hope that the pipeline, in this connection between us and Babawale is not being vandalized. Thank you very much, Major General Emeka Onumajuru, Chief of Training and Operations and Training, Defense Headquarters. Thank you so much for being our guest. And of course, we wish you the very best, you and the team, on the field, making sure that our resources are safe. Thank you. Majid Dahiru, Public Affairs Analyst and newspaper columnist, we appreciate you for your insights on the program. And of course, Patrick Agambu, Public Safety and Security Expert. It was a pleasure to have you on the program. We also appreciate CSC Babawale Afolabi, National Public Relations Officer, and CDC National Headquarters for joining us for the conversation. So that's Good Morning, Nigeria, this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Victor, so we'll see you again tomorrow.